We're so glad you're here and you're taking a proactive approach to your health. For this workout, you may want to keep a towel near you, and let's get started with your lower body strength training workout. To begin, we're going to start on your hands and knees. We're going to go into what's called cat-cow. So this is going to be warming up your back. In cat, you're going to round your back as much as you can. You're tucking your chin, tucking your tailbone. And then cow, you're going to actually slump down, picking up the chin, picking up the tailbone. So we're working our fullest range of motion through the back. Just take your time with this. This should feel really relaxing, stretching and warming up the back. And now I want to change this up. So we're going to do cat to neutral spine. So this is your neutral spine, nice and long. Then I want you to lift up into cat. So you're still tucking the chin, tucking the tailbone, and then back to a long spine. And again. And you're breathing through this, and you should feel how your abdominals are playing into this as well. And that's your last one. Good. Now we're going to go into what's called a hip flexor stretch. If you do need to pad your knees, you can always place a towel underneath your knees if you need to. So in this position, we've got balance on our bottom knee, and we're going to be moving in and out of a pelvic tuck. So I want you to focus on your back cheek flexing and begin. So we're moving, it's a very small range of motion, moving those hips under and releasing. So we've practiced this before. This activates your bottom cheek as well as those abs. So we're going to make this much more effective in the exercises to come. This should also feel great in stretching out the bottom leg right in front of the hip. That's where the hip flexor muscle is, and that's what we need to really focus on stretching here. 2, 1, switching out those legs. And same thing, so you've got your form, ready, begin. So very small range of motion, hip flex, you're pulling that belly button in, you're standing upright, and you're focusing on squeezing the back cheek. That helps you create this range of motion. It turns on that cheek so we can use it a little bit easier later, as well as stretching that front of the hip, that hip flexor. 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Let's come up to standing. We're gonna start our workout. Our first exercise is a sumo squat. You wanna take your feet wider than your shoulders. Sometimes wider is better in this case. And you also wanna turn those toes out a little bit wider too. So we're gonna go ahead and lower into your sumo squat. Ready, begin. So you are upright as you're moving. You don't wanna let your chest collapse forward. You're opening up those knees. So you're prying them open the whole time, on the way down and on the way up. You're gonna be feeling those inner thighs stretch a little bit, especially on the down. And then you use the inner thighs and the cheeks to squeeze to come back up. Now for knee safety, I just want you to think of tracking your knees over the feet. So you don't want your knees facing forward and your toes flared open. They both need to be facing in the same direction. So check on that. You have 3, 2, 1, and rest. Come down onto your stomach. Our next exercise, this is called frog legs. So we're gonna take the knees open, heels stick together, and those toes are flared open like this. Just keep your upper body relaxed. You're gonna tighten up your abs, tighten up your cheeks, tuck them to the floor, and we begin to lift the knees. Begin. So the abs are strong, and the glutes are on, and we're starting to lift and lower the knees. So this is a very small range of motion. It's not gonna be a large lift, but it's gonna be a lot of work for this lower half here. We've got low back, core, and glutes working all together to be able to create this lift. You might feel your hamstrings a little bit too, which is perfectly fine. Be sure to keep your heels together and your knees wide, toes open. Make sure you're breathing here. It's just very relaxing for this upper body, but we've got some pretty intense work for the lower body. 2, 1, and rest. On your back for bridge. In bridge, we just want to make sure that those heels are ready to take your weight as you press to the heels, pelvic tuck, and we bridge up. Now we're going to hold your bridge and go into marching. So we're going to start to lift and alternate the legs. So the point of this exercise is to be able to try to steady your hips as you're moving. So there shouldn't be this large sway in your hips. You're trying to create as much control through your core and your cheeks as possible. You should feel how your cheeks are alternating the work to be able to create this movement. If this is too difficult, I just want you to hold the top of your bridge for now. Keep creating strength. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Now we have ab work to do. So we're going to take the legs up into what's called a tabletop position, but you can always keep your feet down if you'd like. Your low back is pressing into the floor, hands behind your head, and we're going to alternate crunching up to each side. Ready, begin. So we're pulling the shoulder blades up and off the ground, alternating which side we pull that chest open towards. You do want to make sure that you're relaxing your neck so the weight of your head is rested into your hands, and we're using your core to create the lift and rotation. Make sure you're breathing. Often with the twist, with that lift, we exhale. So trying to time your breath here. Now, if the legs are starting to work too much, just take those feet down to the floor, but this is a little bit more advanced, holding the legs up here. 3, 2, 1, rest. Good, and we'll come back up to standing in our sumo squat. So remember, placing those feet wider than your shoulders. This is going to be safer for your knees. Ready, and begin. We're lowering down and up, using your inner thighs and your cheeks to do most of the work. Do make sure that you're upright. We just don't want to end up hinging forward too much here. Check on your knees. There should be no pain in your knees. A good modification is maybe just to hold the bottom of your sumo squat if those knees are starting to hurt. Checking on the toes, the alignment of your knees, and just making sure that the correct muscles are working, inner thighs and cheeks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Back onto your stomach. Setting up for our frog legs. Knees open, heels connect. We've got our abs and cheeks working. Ready, begin. Up and down. So our small but very effective lift. Make sure that your feet are always facing up towards the ceiling as well. You don't want to end up flopping those feet down. That just becomes a little bit more sloppy. You want to keep this very small, very controlled. Upper body is relaxed. You don't want to find that you're lifting your head, trying to lift your knees. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest there. Good. Moving onto your back for our bridge and marching. So making sure those heels are ready to be pressed down into the floor, pelvic tuck. We come up into the top of our bridge, hold there. Then we get to add the marching. So alternate lifting the legs. We want to keep those hips as still as possible. Let's place your hands on top of your hip bones. This is going to allow you to know how much movement is really happening through those hips and creating as much control as you possibly can. The work should be in your cheeks. So you are keeping those activated, but they're alternating the work as those legs lift. If you are starting to cramp up in your hamstrings, the back sides of your legs, that is a sign that those cheeks are not working as effectively as they should be. So just practice bridge if that's happening. And rest. Good work. Moving into our ab work, we're going to take the legs into a tabletop position. Low back is always pressed to the floor. Hands behind the head. Ready, begin. So we're alternating crunching to each side, pulling those shoulder blades off the ground. The abdominals are working here. We want to make sure that we're not tugging on the neck, we're not tugging on the head, we're not trying to lift through the neck. This is all abdominals. We're also working our obliques by adding this rotation. Not only are we working the front of the abs, we also have the sides of the abdominals working too. Keep breathing here, just trying to create a rhythm for yourself. Do not hold your breath during your abdominals. 3, 2, 1, and rest. All right, we are in our third round, coming up to our sumo squat. Take those feet nice and wide, toes pointed out, just enough for your knees to stay in alignment. Ready, and begin. So lower and lift. Now, for knee safety, if you need to, just hold the bottom of your sumo squat if that feels better. We don't want any pain moving through this exercise. And I also just want to demonstrate here that Shelley's knee is not passing over her toe. Her stance is wide enough to make sure her knees are safe. So just check in with that for yourself. Make sure that those knees are actually in alignment with those feet. Staying upright, your core should be on. Use your inner thighs and those cheeks to lift. 2, 1, and rest. Back onto your stomach. Last time for the frog legs. Knees are open, heels together. We want to make sure your core is on, ready, begin. So lift and lower with those knees, but we are working your entire core to be able to do this. So we are strengthening your low back, but with the support of your abdominals and your cheeks. Your cheeks are actively pushing down into the floor, and that creates less work for our low back, and we want to continue that kind of balance here. So up and down with those knees, make sure you're breathing. Do not recruit your upper body to be able to do your lower body's work. We're almost there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. And moving into our bridge onto your back. We're going to be adding marching here. So pelvic tuck, press through the heels, we come up to the top of your bridge and begin. So alternate lifting the legs. This can be a smaller range of motion if you need the modification. We're going to add the hands on your hips so we know what's happening with those hips, because we want to make sure that we don't have a lot of sway. We want control, we want strength. And the strength comes from your cheeks, and they're alternating, working as we alternate the lift with your legs. Keeping your upper body relaxed as well. Doing great work here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest there. And moving into our ab work, we're gonna bring the legs up into tabletop. Upper body is relaxed where the weight of your head is in your hands. Ready, begin. So you're alternating, crunching to each side, using the front of your abs as well as your obliques in our rotation. With abdominal work, you just want to make sure that you do create some kind of rhythm for your breath. Usually with the lift, you exhale. Inhale into your center, but you don't want to feel like you're breathing too quickly. Just find a pattern that works for you. If you do need to modify this a bit, you can always take the feet back down to the floor, because we need to make sure your low back is always pressed down into the floor. 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Great job. We're going to be moving into our next set of exercises. For this one, in case there's any wrist irritation, you can always add a little bit of a pad underneath your wrist. So I just want to remind you of that. Let's go onto your hands and knees to begin. And our alignment here is your hands are directly underneath your shoulders, a little space between the knees are underneath your hips. We're going to start with a leg kickback where we have a bent knee, flexed foot, and we are working from this cheek. Ready, begin. So we just start to lift and lower this leg. So the rest of your body is very stationary. You have your core tight, it's pulling up away from the floor, and we are using this cheek to be able to create the movement through this leg. Your bottom leg here is stabilizing. You will feel a little bit of work there. That's totally normal. That's totally fine. We want to stamp this foot towards the ceiling. So just think of up and down, this little pulse. Doesn't need to be a huge range of motion, because remember we have the control here in your core. Also, making sure that you have equal weight between your hands. Just check in with that. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now we're going to switch legs. Make sure there's a little space between your knees before you begin. Ready, and begin. So we keep the knee bent the whole time with a flexed foot. Imagine you're pumping that heel up to the ceiling, isolating into this one cheek here. So we're learning about how to use one side at a time. That's going to be very effective, very efficient for you later on, creating that strength and stability through your hips. If you do have a stronger leg, that is perfectly normal, but that's why we also need to work on single side work, so we bring as much balance as we can to the body. Looking good here. We've got a great, steady, long, flat back. 3, 2, 1, rest. Now we're gonna go back to the first leg. This is called a hip extension. We still keep a flexed foot and we extend the leg straight out from the body. Begin. So the knee bends and then extends straight out. With this one, we're not looking for a huge amount of lift, but rather length from the body. So that heel shoots straight out from the hip. This shouldn't be jerky. It should be very slow and controlled, very intentional with the length, very intentional with the squeeze through the cheek. Again, your torso and that core is very steady, controlled, and turned on. And also check in with your shoulders. Make sure they're out of your ears. They should be rested, relaxed, not trying to work for your lower body. 2, 1, and rest. We're switching legs. Make sure your alignment's right and begin. Extension straight out from the hip. Keeping that flexed foot as well. That actually helps with a little extra activation through your cheek. Belly button's lifted away from the floor. And slow and controlled here. Practicing that isolation, single leg work. Looking great. Check in with your breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now we're gonna add on. So we're gonna go into what I call a rainbow. So back to our original leg, extend it out. Now it's gonna go wide, tapping the toe to the floor, and then up and over to the other side, so it crosses over the body. So over and back. This huge rainbow-like motion. We're tapping that toe to the floor. It should be a very quiet tap. That lets me know that you're keeping complete control. Again, slow and steady is much better. You're gonna be feeling your core a little bit more in this one because you're gonna have to work a little harder to keep it centered. So keeping those abs on, keeping your shoulders relaxed, equal weight in your hands is a great way to check in, making sure that this whole body is working together to create a very safe, effective movement. 3, 2, 1. Rest that leg and we switch. Ready and begin. Keep the leg as long as you can. We don't want to bend from the knee here. We're working from the hip. Check in with your core. Try not to wiggle around. Taking a lot of core work to be able to steady yourself. I'm sure you're feeling these legs by now. They're both working very differently. Your bottom leg is stabilizing as this long leg is isolating. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Good, we're gonna go into another variation of bridge. So we're gonna go onto your back. With this one, I'm gonna have you start with your feet stuck together. So they're very close together. I want you to squeeze your knees together, pelvic tuck, and we begin our bridge. So we're gonna be going up and down with our bridge. So I want you to be able to practice what that pelvic tuck feels like in your bridge as you're moving. So there's really no release from your pelvic tuck. This helps to protect your back. It puts the work where it belongs, which is a little bit more into the glutes, a little bit of hamstrings. I also want you to remember this in case we go a little bit too advanced, you have a place to come back to keep working on your strength. Looking good. Your upper body's, again, relaxed. We're not recruiting your neck to be doing any of this work here. And then we're gonna be moving into a single leg bridge. Ready? I want you to hold at the top, extend one leg, those knees are stuck together. We're holding here. So you are feeling just this one cheek working from the leg that's down, pressing through the heel. 2, 1, switch out those legs. We're still up in our bridge. Knees are stuck together and we're holding. So we've got this single cheek work in here. Keeping those hips as level as you can. This is a hard one. Stay with me. 2, 1, and rest the feet down and lower yourself down. Good work. Now we're gonna go into, great work, Shelley. We're gonna go into your side plank. So what we're gonna first get here is our alignment. We want a nice long body. So we've got our bottom elbow, our hip, and our knee all in one straight line. And we're gonna then lift the hip off the ground. Begin. So this is our side plank. We're working through the sides here, specifically this bottom oblique. The shoulder here, we want to make sure that the shoulders are stacked. You're pushing that elbow down into the floor so we're not sinking into our shoulder. This can be a very difficult exercise, but if you get that alignment right, it really helps you to keep that strength. Rest as you need to. We're almost there. You should really be feeling your core here. 4, 3, 2, 1, and down. Now we switch sides. So same thing, find your straight alignment. It's really important that this bottom knee is also in line with your hip, it's not forward. And we come up, begin. So if there's any bottom shoulder pain, I want you to adjust. Do not stay in pain. Find a great way to be able to hold that shoulder in a safe position. This is our packed shoulder work, pressing that elbow into the floor, keeping your shoulder blades pulled together in the back here. And then we're still trying to pull that the hips away from the ground. So that creates the work here for this bottom oblique. You're looking great. Just keep checking in with your form. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Good work. Okay, we're starting our second round. This is our last round, only doing 2 rounds of these on your hands and knees. And we will start with our bent leg hip extension. Up and down. Begin. So we've got our bent knee the whole time, foot stays flexed, and we're working this single cheek to be able to do the work. And I just want to remind you to keep this upper body as relaxed as possible. Shoulders stay down the back, core is lifted away from the floor. Looking great. The work really only belongs in this cheek, and you will feel a little bit of this stabilizing leg too, and that's perfectly fine. Keep breathing here, you look good. 2, 1, and we switch sides. Okay, same thing, just check in with your alignment and begin. Working the cheek, pumping that foot to the ceiling. Check in with your back. What we don't want is any swaying in your back. Sometimes if you're trying to lift that leg too high, we actually end up compromising the form through our back. So I just want you to check in with that. We want strength through your core, not a lot of bend. Just looking at your fingertips, keeping a neutral neck. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, now we're gonna go full extension with the leg. This is called a donkey kickback. So we're gonna extend and bend the leg, begin. So you're pressing through the heel. This is really important here. You're getting that length through the leg, press through the heel. We're not really trying to go up to the ceiling this time. We're actually trying to go to the back wall. So pressing, trying to reach that back wall, straight out from the hip. We are spending a lot of time on those hands, so just feel free to modify. If you need to come down to your elbows, or if you need to pad your wrists, that's perfectly fine. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Switching sides, core on, begin. Looking great. So just another reminder, we don't want any kind of movement through your core because it's stabilizing, it's working. But we're also feeling the cheek. Getting a pretty good burn by now, I'm sure. Looking really good. Just keep pressing through that heel, that foot stays flexed. Long, neutral, relaxed neck. Almost there. Keep on breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's move into our rainbow, our crossover. Last one here. Ready? Begin. So this is as wide as you can make it while still keeping control through your core. So we want big range of motion, but with a very soft toe touch. That way I know that you're keeping control. You're not just letting that leg flop around. This is very intentional. The leg needs to stay long as well. Make sure you're not trying to bend from the knee at all. This is going to be a little bit harder for keeping that upper body relaxed and keeping that core engaged. We have a lot more activity in the core. Try to keep equal weight between your hands. That's just a really good reminder about what your upper body should be doing. 4, 3, 2, 1. We're switching legs. We're almost there. Looking good. Ready and begin. This adds a little extra work for your inner and outer thigh, as well as your obliques, the sides of your waistline. Big lift, big rainbow motion, looking great. Keep breathing through this exercise. We are almost there. Stay with us. Looking so good. Check in with your upper body. Is it doing the right thing? Staying relaxed, I hope. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Great job. Let's move into our bridging, laying on your back. So getting those heels down, they're close together, knees are stuck together, pelvic tuck, and begin. So we're moving up and down in our bridge, keeping your upper body relaxed, and I want you to be focusing on your cheeks. They're squeezing to the top. We're trying to learn how to isolate those cheeks, as well as get some help from our hamstrings, the back sides of your legs. What we don't want is to allow those hamstrings to completely take over or your low back to completely take over. So those cheeks play a major role in how to create a well-balanced working lower body here. We'll be moving into our single leg bridge soon. If that's too advanced, I want you to stay here. But if we're working that single leg, remember it's your cheek that works. And let's hold at the top. Now keep those knees stuck together, extend one leg, and we're holding. So we've got a 10-second hold here. Keep breathing, isolate your cheek of the leg that's down. Shelley's pressing through her heel right here, that's great. 2, 1, and switch out the legs, stay up in your bridge, and begin. We're holding, press those knees together. We're keeping those hips stable. They should be flat. Try not to let one hip drop. And 2, 1, and rest. Feet down and relax. Good work. And let's go into our side plank. So our alignment is nice and straight. We've got our strong bottom shoulder here, making sure to not collapse into that shoulder. And begin, we lift the hip. So we're nice and long here. You can always bend that bottom and top knee to be able to be stacked here. That's just an option if that feels more comfortable for you. Right here, we've got our arm extended to the ceiling, pulling those shoulder blades together in the back. So we're just really finding our form, finding the way to be able to set our body with correct posture, no pain, but a lot of work on this bottom side of the body. 3, 2, 1, and rest. Move into the other side. We are almost there. Again, so find that alignment, that safe alignment here, and we lift and we're holding. This is a 30-second hold. I want you to breathe. I want you to pay attention to what this bottom shoulder is doing, and then really trying to flex on that bottom side of your torso, that oblique there. You might even feel a little bit of work in your hips. We've been working those hips hard today. You look great. Both shoulders are pulled away from your ears. You have an open chest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Great job, and we are ready to start our cool down. Make sure you have a towel nearby just in case you need to sit on that for a little extra cushioning. We're gonna first stretch the inner thighs. So those feet come together in the front, knees are wide, and I want you to sit up straight as much as you can. So we're getting some inner thigh stretching here. This should feel really nice, and just let those knees become heavy. They should just relax open. You might be feeling this a little bit in the sides of your hips as well. Now to change this stretch a little bit, I want you to start to round forward now towards your feet. So we're gonna get a rounded spine. You might feel a deeper stretch here. You might get a little bit of a stretch in your low back, tucking your chin. Excellent, and release from that stretch. Now you're gonna lay down on your back. We're gonna go into a spine twist. So one leg is gonna pull up towards your chest and then over your body. And we'll extend that bottom leg that we're not using right now. Good, and you can even open up your arms a little bit wider. You're trying to pull those shoulders down into the floor. And so what this creates is a little bit of a twist in your lower back. It stretches out the hip here And I want you to also feel a bit of a stretch in your chest by opening up those arms. So this should feel really good. Now, if this is too deep of a stretch, you can always end up bending this top leg or even just making it a little bit more shallow of a stretch. But I want you to find a great place for you to relax into this stretch. Now, before we switch sides, tighten up your core and then pull the legs back to center. And now we'll go to the other side. So switch out the legs, up and over. Great work. And just melt into the floor. Let your body relax into this. Find a position that just feels really good. We've been working that lower half of the body today to get that nice stretch. Start to loosen it up. Deep breathing, relaxing breaths. Now we'll tighten up your core, bringing those legs back to center. Now this next one, this is called a figure 4 stretch. So we're gonna bend both knees. Feet are on the floor. There's a couple ways you can do this one. We're first gonna just get the ankle crossed over to the other knee. This is your first step, and you can always stay here, maybe even press the knee open a little bit, which helps to improve that stretch. Otherwise, we're gonna take the hands and weave it through that bottom foot. So we'll pick up that foot, and this is going to enhance that stretch. So this might be something you're ready for, maybe not, but just getting that right positioning so you're feeling the stretch through the hip, the backside of the leg, into the cheek that we've been working so hard today, and be able to still keep your head rested on the floor. If you're having a hard time reaching here too, you can always use a towel to allow for that extra extension there if your hands aren't able to wrap behind the leg. And let's switch out those legs very gently. Ankle over the knee, and then we'll start to weave the hands behind the leg. That looks good. And just rest your upper body. And while we're stretching, just focus on your breathing, relaxing breaths. And 3, 2, 1, and release there. And we have one more stretch. So I'm gonna have you grab your towel, and the towel is gonna go on the toe end of your foot. So this is called an active stretch. So we've got our leg as extended as possible. That toe is pointed down towards your forehead. That towel is actually helping you do that. And now we're gonna bend and extend the leg. So bending, and then it's straightening that leg the best that you can. So that way we're getting a nice deep stretch into your hamstring. Don't overextend the leg, but you might be able to find that you're able to straighten it maybe a little bit more than usual. I still need you to keep this as gentle as possible. Now, if you are feeling a little bit of extra tension in that low back, you can feel free to bend your relaxed leg as a modification. And let's switch out those legs. That looks good. Great, and begin. Just an active stretch. You're taking your time with this. Only move in the range of motion that's appropriate for you. If you're getting that little bit of a shake behind your leg, that's perfectly fine too. Relaxing breaths, upper body is as relaxed as you can. And release there. That looks great. You are doing such a great job at improving your body's health and longevity. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.